Thank you so much for coming. I started what was the precursor for American Physician Institute in 2002. And over the years, I've had, every year I probably have 20 to 30, 40 doctors asking me for some sort of business advice. And then more broadly, career advice. So I think over these 15, 16 years, it's probably hundreds of doctors have asked me. And of course, I'm just one person with one person's experience, but I wanted to share that experience with you because I think some of the things, at least I say, will be particular or, kind of resonate with you. And so let me start off with this, and I'm going to go through these 10 areas. And then, of course, you're welcome to ask me any kind of question. And if we have any time, I'll tell you a little bit about exactly my own kind of personal and emotional story about what it was like to set things up. So let's start off, stressed out physicians and what to do about it. And I would put the fact that physicians are stressed out into two categories. The first category is it's very stressful. In fact, it's depressogenic to be in a situation in which you have very little control. In fact, that whole concept of learned helplessness was developed through experiments with mice and rats. And these little animals, they were shocked. Electrical shocks they received, and they had to stand on these metal, surfaces, and they were shocked. And the mice that were shocked randomly, where it had nothing to do with what they did, they just they developed all the symptoms of depression. They just basically gave up. They would no longer try to escape. And so I think for all of us creatures, and not only human beings, it's very frustrating, anxiety-provoking, and depressing when we feel we don't have control. And unfortunately, the way that a lot of physicians practice these days, they have very little control. It's sad to say, but sometimes I say it's sort of like, it's like highly paid sweatshop work. And a lot of doctors don't practice that way. And that's the good thing that I want to kind of explore with you, because definitely you do not need to be in that situation. Unfortunately, many physicians are, hundreds of thousands of them in this country. And of course, as the healthcare costs have gone up in this country, we spend like double the OECD average on healthcare per capita. The approach has been to kind of somehow, put the screws on physicians and to control what physicians do. There are many physicians that, are, sure, you may have a start time to your day, but you don't get to decide who you see or for how long or when you're going home. It's if you find that situation, if you're in it or have been in it, frustrating and just somehow demoralizing, you're not alone. That's the way any organism would react to such a situation. So what is the answer to that? The answer to that is you do not need to put up with that. This is a buyer's market. Buyers in terms of you, the person who controls the job. There's a shortage of physicians in almost every single specialty. I once read, this was 3 years ago, that the biggest shortage was in, renal specialists. And maybe if you're a psychiatrist and you want to work in, kind of like in Upper West Side of Manhattan, well, maybe there isn't a psychiatrist shortage there, but probably anywhere else there is. And over the years, I mean, dozens of times a year, people tell me how they move from one place to another. Jobs are plentiful. So if you are unhappy, you probably have very good reasons to be unhappy. And the good news is, and we ought to be grateful for this, is that you do not need to put up with whatever the situation is. You know, of course, certain medical systems, certain medical centers, clinics, you know, group practices will try to control things to their benefit. Okay? But you call the shots. So my main message to you today is to feel empowered. Okay? I think the second reason for kind of getting stressed out and burnt out is that it's related to the physician shortage, but in a different way. You are asked to do more than you can. I like to say this, that if there were 3 of you, like we could just magically kind of like copy you, and instead of 1 of you, there were 3 of you. And then we had each one of the 3 of you work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There would still be more people who want your services. So what that really says is that the environment, really there's no upper limit to how much they want of you. So there's not any way that you can ever meet the demand. I mean, of course, if you just move to a new place and just open up, you know, put out your shingle, you may be looking to grow your practice, but you will discover shortly, often within half a year, if really you're focusing on it, that you have more patients than you can handle. So what is the implication of that? The implication of that is that there's only one person who can say no, and that is you. And this comes down to, you know, kind of being emotionally able to accept that you can't save the entire world. And it's very, very frustrating because there are so many people who could benefit from your help. But I think you have to, in a way, step out of yourself and almost treat yourself as if you're counseling yourself and say, listen, if you overdo it now, you will burn out. And you will maybe leave your career early, or something will happen, or you'll get sick. So if you really, in a way, want to maximize the number of people you help over your career, you're going to have to find a balance. Now, there's no set balance in general. There's a set balance for you. Some doctors, you know, I meet psychiatrists every year at the APA and at our conferences. You know, oh, I work 6 days a week. It's like, I love my patients. It's sort of like, it's like chatting with me. It's like, you know, these are like the super extroverts. You know, they're like, they see patients for 12 hours a day, and then they stop at, you know, Starbucks for tea, and then they're still talking to everyone. Well, I don't know about you. I'm not that way. You know, so you're going to have to find, you're the person who's going to have to draw that line, and it's going to be very hard, and you're going to feel guilty. And maybe you already feel guilty, and guilt wears on you. But you have to, like, in a way, say, I have to do my part, but I can't do more than that. Okay? So it's another way of taking control.